Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio. It is our fourth Wednesday time with Ward Heinrichs. Ward is a San Diego employment attorney, and he joins us every fourth Wednesday to give us an update on California employment laws. I can't speak. But here's the thing. Go to his website, bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com. He keeps up with laws there and talks with people online and also over the phone. You can give him a call, whether you're a business owner in management or the employee that may need some help. So today, he's going to talk about leaves of absence rights, because this has really expanded over now into 2023, but it's kind of been changing over the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. So welcome back, Ward. How are you?
Well, thanks for welcoming me back. Yes, I am doing well. Things are really starting to pop here in California. We finally got a little sunshine. It's been raining. Whoa, for like 3 weeks in a row. It's just
crazy.
Wow. But we're drying out and things are good.
And you're going to have sunflowers, not sunflowers, but like spring wildflowers all over. The desert's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be a
I hadn't
magic
thought
spring.
about that. I love going out there after good rain. It gets very pretty.
And up in Julian, up in the mountains, all the, the lilacs and the daffodils and all that. And I'm kind of feeling homesick.
I know.
Yeah, no, the foliage will be beautiful. I just got an email from Mission Trails. They have a little park there. Well, it's a big park, actually. And there are all sorts of fungus growing there that have never grown there before. That's what they're claiming in there. Yeah, so it's mushrooms popping up all over the place. So
there's
really
a fungus among us. Don't go eating too many of those. You never know what could happen, Ward.
Or
we
smoking.
might have to get, we might have to. I know we might have to get an attorney for you.
I'm not going to. I'm good.
Everybody be happy with your mushrooms, but yeah, today, talking about going out and hiking and everything. There's paid leave, right? So there's vacation time. So that's really not what we're going to be touching on today. It's not like vacation time. Although, I mean, you could try and lie to get out of work, right? Or
well, sure you can. And paid leave is a kind of leave, and I could have included it in this list, but those laws really haven't changed much. But it's another type of leave, and there's more types of leave than I mentioned in my article. But when you say, can you lie? Well, for sick leave, it's possible to say, hey, I'm sick. And, your employer really, I advise employers, well, just give it to them. Don't worry about it. If you can prove that they're lying later, well, then you can fire them. I've heard of stories where someone took sick leave and they got photographed at Disneyland the same day. So that's never happened to any of my clients that I know of, but I've heard of it happening. And yes, it happens, number one. And number two, they can get terminated for that kind of stuff.
So be careful. All right. So now one of the big new laws I want to touch on is, or I should say, absence rights. Really kind of goes with what's been going on with the weather in California. Certain areas, Central California, had massive flooding. Even right now, the General's Highway going in from Three Rivers, California into Sequoia National Park is closed because of mudslides and after the fires. So now that's kind of devastating. And so a lot of people were evacuated. Even during the last show you were on, one of our guests couldn't make it on the show because she was being evacuated.
Really?
And,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it was sad, so really scary times, but that's something that employees now, if there's a wildfire, an earthquake, any kind of natural disaster, right, or an emergency situation, like, maybe a shooting in a school and your kids are in it, things we don't want to talk about, but are really happening, you can't force them to come to work, right?
Right. You can't force those people to come to work, and you can't stop them from leaving if that kind of situation is going on. It's a situation that is an emergency situation or a situation of extreme peril. And it really leaves it up, the judgment, there's gray area in there, what is one, what's not. But, the idea is if your life's in danger kind of thing, or if someone in your family immediate family has a potential dangerous situation, or they're in a potential dangerous situation, then you can actually leave work, and they can't stop you from using your cell phone to figure these things out too.
Oh, okay. Oh, so yeah, if you get an emergency call like, hey, you've got to evacuate, your area's on fire, you can use
Then
your
you
phone
can
and
go.
talk to who you need, and they can't get on. So you can
Right.
take your cell phone to work then, basically, in case of, you know?
Yes. Now, it depends on the employer's policy. Some employers have a policy of no cell phone use. Some don't. It just depends. But if they do have a policy of no cell phone use, then under these circumstances, you're allowed to use it, to one, monitor the situation so you can get news reports and things like that. And then two, to communicate to people that you have to communicate to.
Okay. All right. So
Well,
this is
that's
all stuff.
reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's an
Yeah.
important thing, for
Mhm.
sure. Let's go back up to, and everyone, Ward's article is up on blendradioandtv.com right now. You can see it, and just type in Ward and sick leave, or I should say leave absence, and it'll come up. You can also see Ward in our expert department and in the business section. But this is also about bereavement leave. So this is a new law for this year, right? About if someone has passed in your family.
Yes. Before this year, California didn't have a law that created a right to bereavement leave. Some companies had bereavement leave policies that allowed for it, but if they didn't have such a policy, then they didn't have to, then a business wouldn't have to let someone go when a person who is in their immediate family, or slightly extended family, passes away and attend the funeral. I think honestly, most employers, even if they didn't have such a policy, they would work things out usually. And so that seems to be, people are common sense most of the time, but they didn't have to. Now they have to. Now they absolutely, if your grandparent dies, your parent dies, sibling, things like that, children, you definitely get time off for bereavement leave. It's unpaid time, but you get time off.
Okay.
Yeah. So as an employer, if your employee is in trouble in any manner and they really not focusing on work, and they need time off, and you don't have to pay them, I can't imagine why you'd make them stay.
Well,
because
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. And that's why I say I don't think it was a huge, big problem, because most of the businesses that I know and work with, they're going to let someone go. I get it. Now, there is a gray area. If it's your great grandmother, if it's your best friend's mother, something like that, well, maybe not.
Yeah.
And it's not, but that's, best friend's mother is not required under the law. So you might not get that still. But again, businesses tend to be common sense about a lot of that kind of thing.
What about pets?
Oh,
What if
boy.
my dog dies? I don't want to go to work. I'll be crying.
No bereavement leave. Sorry.
Fine, Ward.
You hear that, doggies?
Fine.
You hear
Fine.
that?
Yeah, that's it.
But if you want my permission, take a day off.
I think would be, because some people are so attached to their animals that they, if they're crying all day, it's sad.
Oh yeah. Well, right. If you're, if you have a good, I really think these things happen where you have normally a very good employee and they're just not able to function. I think you're going to let that person have some time off.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you run into more problems is the marginal employee, someone who really isn't trying that hard, and there's all sorts of employees out there. I'm not blaming employees, but some employees are better than others. Then you're like, really? For your dog, you missed 20 hours last week because
Your chicken.
You were hungover.
Because you were at Disneyland,
You were hungover after Disneyland, so you called in sick from your fake vacation. So, you could get in trouble. But so that's one thing that's new. And then you talk about the California Family Rights Act, and this is something that has kind of been changing over the last few years.
Yeah, it sure has. And we've covered most of this on past interviews and things, but the big one was in 2021, the California Family Rights Act. Well, in 2020, the California Family Rights Act applied to businesses that had 50 or more employees. Then in 2021, the law changed and it was businesses that had 5 or more employees. And so that's pretty dramatic.
That's a big change.
So that was the big change. And then they recently expanded the number of people that it can apply to. And they added to the list that also expanded over time. The last couple of years has expanded, but this is the last expansion that we've seen in 2023 is a designated person. So you're allowed to say, this person, at least under the CFRA, the California Family Rights Act. Now, the Sick Leave Act is slightly different. I'm sure we'll get into that. But under the California Family Rights Act, the person that is designated needs to be a blood relative or someone like a blood relative. So again, a little gray area, but the idea is it's someone close to you.
So
then you go help them. You can take time off of work if they have some type of illness.
So like if I had a nephew and, I was close to the nephew and close to, I could take care of them, I could do that. You know what I mean? If they're close.
Yeah, that probably satisfies the law. So you go, and you can name them when you need it. You don't have to say, this is my designated person and they're on the books for 30 years. You can say,
it could be like an emergency situation.
Well, emergency, or it doesn't even have to be an emergency. The law says you can go up to your boss and say, hey, I need some time off to help my sick nephew. They've got COVID, whatever. And they go, what? Are you kidding me? Your nephew? And you go, well, I'm designating my nephew as my designated person under the California Family Rights Act. That's fine. California Family Act says that's fine and that you should get the leave under those circumstances.
Yeah, because what
paid
happens?
Or unpaid? It's paid leave?
It's unpaid. Now, remember, when I say unpaid, that means that law doesn't require payment, but you can use vacation time in place, PTO in place, sick leave in place. You can actually use some sick leave for the California Family Rights Act time.
Okay. So that you get paid.
There are ways of getting payment. At least limited. Again, this thing is California Family Rights Act allows you to get 12 weeks off a year. And so what?
12 weeks?
Yeah, you can get 12 weeks off.
What's the point of going to work?
For a serious medical condition.
Okay, something serious. So like if is making up about a nephew, but what happens if say, okay, the nephew, the sister and her husband were in a major car wreck or something. And you're going to step in to help all of them. You know what I mean? That would be something that takes a lot of time. Like they have rehab, there's, you know what I mean? That kind of thing would be something intense.
Yeah. I'm thinking for a sick nephew, you probably don't need 12 weeks, a week might do it, but it does depend what the nephew has and how close you are with him, things like that. But remember, this law is broader than what we've just described. It also covers baby bonding. You can get 12 weeks for that. It covers other serious medical conditions anyway. So it covers things that really could last. It covers
like cancer.
If you have cancer and you can't work, you can get 12 weeks under the California Family Rights Act.
Okay, well, and then what happens when you say about baby bonding? Is that only for the mother or can the father get that too?
It's for both.
Okay, that's cool.
So what happens if you go, let's just say you have 2 major emergencies within 1 year, and the first emergency you use up your 12 weeks, and then months later something else happens. The employee, you get fired, or you can take the time off, not get fired, but you don't get paid? What happens there?
You already don't get paid under the California Family Rights Act unless you have some other type of leave that you can use that is paid.
Okay.
So payment really isn't the issue. It's the amount of time. So if you've used up your 12, you don't get any more.
Okay.
So you don't have a right to get any more. If you take it off, then you could get terminated.
Oh, wow. But
now,
that could
again,
change.
do people work that out? They might, Depends on a lot of things. So that could still be worked out. And I mean, remember, this runs into sick leave law too. And now you don't get nearly as much time. In San Diego, you get 5 days. In California, the California law gives you 3 days. So you may be able to get some extra time that way if you haven't used it for your California Family Rights Act
and
stuff.
your vacation. And your vacation, your
Yeah,
vacation.
if you haven't used that during the CFRA leave, then you could probably use it in these situations.
What about? So yeah, these are like emergency things, and so you can do the different leaves. And I think a lot of employers, if this is a really top earning, or just like a vital team member in their company, they're going to probably work with you to do things. But there's so many circumstances that maybe you can negotiate that even when you're getting a job. Like, hey, I mean, I know this goes into discrimination again, maybe, right? If you do employees, if you're not doing something physical, have the right to ask you, like, do you have a pre-existing condition? You know what I mean? So that they already know they're going to use those 12 weeks up. Like, if you have cancer and you still go get a job.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, you could disclose that. Now, I mean, there's HIPAA, so they got to be a little careful about that kind of stuff. But if the applicant says, "Hey, I've got cancer," in the interview, and they put you on notice, then you got to be careful, because they may end up not hiring you for quote unquote other reasons. That would be an issue.
Right.
But it also puts them on notice, and they can't discriminate against you because you've got this medical condition. That would you get coverage, you get protection under the government code and FEHA, the Fair Employment and Housing Act.
Okay.
That protects the protected categories, and we have almost 20 of them now. I think in California we've got a ton. And one of them is disability, and so that could fall under disability, and an applicant has right not to be discriminated against because of a disability.
What happens if it's pregnancy? Like,
same thing.
Same thing. Okay, because that's a medical thing.
Yeah.
Wow. And what happens if you don't tell them? If you don't tell them, like, some people know they're pregnant and will still go get the job because they need the money, and then it's like, oopsie, it happened, and I didn't tell you.
It happened a little quicker than I thought.
Yeah, sorry, the baby's coming out early, like 2 months early.
Fast gestation period.
Yeah, it was it was just after the holidays. I put on weight. Oh no, the baby's coming early. So
yeah. Or just I didn't know.
No,
never ask a woman if she's pregnant.
You're not required to disclose that stuff. You're not required to disclose that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So if you don't disclose, and then you say, "Hey, I need, I want to invoke my rights," then
wow,
they have the right to go out on the PDL and some other things.
Okay, well, this is interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting to know, but the Healthy Workplace, Healthy Families Act, I mean, why is that different than the California Family Rights Act? I mean, isn't it all about family? Okay, what? I'm confused here.
Is it all about family? No, it is. So they just jumble them together. No.
Shove it under one family thing. Yeah.
One is for sick leave. That's not the California Family Rights Act, but what I call the sick leave law. That's for sick leave. That's the easiest way to think about it. The Healthy Families, whatever Act, whatever. No one ever calls it that.
I feel like we're all going to eat carrots and vegetables.
Well, I would advise that if I were a doctor, but
yeah.
But so the sick leave, it has a different purpose than the California Family Rights Act. Although they do overlap. Sick leave, the idea is, hey, if you're sick, don't come to work. So the California legislature says, hey, we don't think sick people should be coming to work. And we know that if they take time off and don't get paid, they try to come to work anyway so often. And then they spread this illness. So what we're going to do is say, hey, they get some time off if they're really sick. Well, and again, there's lots of gray area and people can cheat on it, la-di-da-da. But the idea is, well, even if there's a little bit of that, we still want healthy work, healthy families. That's really where they came up with it. So it's sick leave law.
So like COVID.
The pandemic changed this because, I mean, people were working at home. And what if you're at home, but you're home because there's a pandemic, but you are actually ill, but you're already at home. I mean,
can they make you work even if you're sick and say, okay, well, go work from home?
Well, you're entitled to sick leave pay and take sick time off. So, and I'm venturing on areas that I think I'm right on, but I'm not absolutely positive now. I think
we always do this to you, Ward.
I know.
We always have to mess with you. So,
and
it's Nancy who starts it.
You have the same rights if you're working from home as you do from the office. So you can still get sick time. And if you're on sick time, they really can't make you work. You could say, hey, I'm going to just take 2 hours and I work for 6 hours. You can do that, but they can't make you work if you say, hey, I need a day or two. They can't make you work.
Right.
Now, under COVID, though, is a little different. If you had to quarantine, you could still work if you were working at home.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's weird because you could be sick, still function. I mean, I work when I'm sick, but am I as effective? No. You know what I mean? It's like you're not as good at your job when you're sick, period. You're just not.
But at least you're not
operating it. Yeah, you're not getting people sick, but
yeah,
as an employer, do you want to ask your people to still work when they're sick? I think that would look pretty bad, especially in today's market. That would not be.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably unwise. And again, you have the right to say, I'm going to take the day because I'm sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really, the employer doesn't have any choice. They could investigate if they want to and try to figure out. But who's really going to take the time to do that? Not too many people. It's not worth it. It's a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to, for your side as an attorney, it's really important. Like I know HR does a lot of the HR stuff and the manuals and all of that and understanding sick leave. But for companies, what do you see as some of the things that companies are doing wrong and getting themselves in trouble with these absence, leaves of absence rights and laws?
Yeah, I haven't seen any problem with bereavement yet because it's so new. I've seen some issues with sick leave, specifically under the San Diego city sick leave law. It's a little more strict. Now, here's the weird thing. Sick leave under California, you can't sue for. I don't know why, but there's nothing I've ever found. I've looked. I've said, boy, I wonder if there's a violation here. If an employer can be sued or you can sue an employer. I don't think you can. And if someone out there knows differently, then please correct me. But I haven't found it. But under the the San Diego one, you can sue. It's clear.
Oh.
And so,
wow.
Yeah. So if there's a violation there, then it really can cause, litigation. You get attorney's fees, you get all this stuff. It can cause a big problem for an employer. And that's why generally you say, hey, maybe they're stretching it a little bit, but is it really worth it? Because here's the downside.
So I know we're talking about sick leave. Go ahead, Nancy.
I was going to say, if an employer insists you come to work, when you phoned in and you said, well, I've got whooping cough or whatever, and it's catching.
I'll just use COVID.
And they demand that you go to work, and then someone else gets sick. What happens to the employer then? I mean, now you got two people. One was forced to come to work sick, and then the other one got sick from the other sick one. I mean,
wow. Well, I haven't seen a case like that, but I suppose it's possible that they did it, employer did some type of negligent act that harms a third party, and that could be actionable, I suppose. I mean, how much are you going to get for a cold? Not much. But if it's something serious, then maybe. And there would be two problems there, though. First, if the employee who is sick has sick leave, you can't make them come in. So that's a number one. You've got a big problem right there. And then if someone catches this horrible disease, I could see that there would be a second potential lawsuit based on some type of negligence.
Well, isn't this also cross into? We did shows on this a couple times over the years. It's the responsibility of the employer to create a safe workspace. You know what I mean? It kind of goes into that too. I mean, what happens?
Right.
You could get you have to protect that. I mean, it's like trying to make a chef work in a place and not give him a break when it's really hot in the kitchen. There's a line of what you can do, like put them in the cooler for a bit and then they'll be fine. But just kidding. Every chef I know is going to hit me over the head now, but I'm just kidding. But there are, there's safety issues in regards to security that we've talked about. Like if you work in a bar and someone's doing something stupid to an employee, it's all of those things. So that goes also with being sick. I would think that if your building is making people sick and you've been warned about it, if you've got mold or something and your employees are all getting sick and you never changed it, that could be a drama.
You're right. And I didn't bring that up. There is a separate statute that puts the burden on the employer to have a healthy and safe workplace. In fact, there's a couple different statutes that touch on that, and one directly and one less directly, but you can still use it. And those create liability. So that's a better answer than negligence. Employers do have a duty to have a healthy and safe workplace.
Okay. So, wow. So we got sick leave. We've got people being designated. You got people being protected. If you're in San Diego, you can sue.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Well done. Well done. Good place.
But if you're in Sacramento,
right?
You can't.
You can't. No, but you'll be.
Well, you never know. They might have their own law that allows that. I just don't think the California law does. And really, I've researched it. I've looked. And I go, this doesn't make any sense. We can't enforce it. I don't have to defend this if my client does this.
So when it comes to the law, which preempts the other? Like, does state law preempt federal law, or federal law always wins?
Well, federal law generally preempts state law, but there are certainly certain exceptions under the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is a federal law that governs to a certain degree things like minimum wage and overtime. There's law that says that if the state law is more friendly, that doesn't get preempted. But if it's less friendly, it doesn't. And when I say friendly, provide more protection to the employee. That's what I mean by friendly. So if the state law provides more, so in California, I almost always sue under the California statutes. There are times when I might use federal, use them in conjunction. And there are times when I might want to just go to federal court on a federal violation, but usually not. Usually it's the California law has more protection and allows for more damages.
Okay. Wow. And then what about San Diego versus the state? Like the city law?
Same thing applies there. If San Diego has more laws that are more friendly to the employee, then they'll apply.
Oh, wait, is it city that you can sue San Diego City? Or
San
like
Diego
if you're,
City.
But not the county. So if you live in Julian, there'll be no suing. But if you live proper San Diego City, you can sue.
Yeah. When the city is nearly as big as the county, not quite.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's big. It's a big city.
It's a big county. I think it's the biggest county in the state, San Diego.
And
It's the
who would you
largest
sue
one.
in
Boy, it
Julian
may be.
anyway?
It is a big
Yeah,
county.
because you think about Anza-Borrego Desert, is part of that,
Yeah.
and that's 600 and something thousand acres. It's the largest
Mhm.
desert state park in the 48 lower states.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
See, I got the desert
But,
stuck. Now I
so
want to go see wildflowers.
who would you sue if you lived in a place like Julian, which is it still unincorporated? Who would you sue anyway, city-wise?
Yeah,
The
I mean,
Chamber
there's
of
such
Commerce?
smaller, no,
Who would you
there's such
sue?
smaller employees in,
Yeah.
most of the unincorporated areas. They're smaller. But I
Yeah,
think
well, I
that's,
think Julian's actually incorporated, but
is it?
but
No.
Julian, I don't think it has its. Oh, it's not. It's not an incorporated
No,
city.
Diane
I
Jacob
don't
and
think so.
everybody was part of that. That's who, like, if they went for funding for the
Mm.
chamber or the Merchants Association, they had to go through Diane Jacob's office. So
Okay.
unless it changed after the fires and stuff, I don't know, but
Yeah,
I
we
think
could be
that's,
behind on that.
but I'm thinking about these small towns, right? And these small
Mhm.
businesses, and they may have 5 employees.
Right.
And so, like, when we talk about only 5 employees for some of these laws, that can really, like the one about the bereavement leave, that could
Mhm.
be, pretty big to, especially when you think about something devastating happening, right? An emergency or
Mhm.
something like that. And it's
Yeah.
affected all the employees. Like maybe it's a shooting or something. I know
Well,
this is
oh my
not fun
gosh,
stuff.
yeah, no, I
That
mean,
could,
all right.
that,
So if
that could be
someone's,
rough.
that could be very rough. But if it's an emergency and
Yeah.
people are near death, they're not going to be working anyway. But you're right about bereavement leave, I suppose. Well, I think, shoot, I mean, how often would here's what I think. I think the number 5 for the California Family Rights Act puts a big burden on small employers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you have 5 employees or 6 or 7, a few, and 2 of them say, I need 12 weeks of leave, that's pretty tough for a small business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Now,
I was thinking about Julian that way, because like if one person passes away, you're in a small community where everyone's really close. You know what I
And
mean? It's a very
related.
close-knit community that they could, like, if I was a business owner, I would close this shop and say, we're, taking time out, bereavement time for everybody at that point. You know what I mean? Just for a couple days to
Well,
honor the
but that's
person who's
hard to
passed
do.
or something.
Yeah, a couple days
But
maybe, but
yeah, but I mean, still,
that
but
could hurt.
5 employees, I mean, you could have one full-time and the rest all being part-time. And that's what I'm saying. If they have a shared person of loss, that could be really hard on a
oh,
business.
okay. Yeah, I see what you're
That's
saying.
what I'm saying.
Under
Yeah, you're like,
bereavement, yeah, it could. You're right. I hadn't thought of
yeah,
that.
because people work
Especially
together,
if
they're close, it's
you hire family members. If you hire family members and then there's death in the family,
yeah.
you could lose a bunch of your staff all
But
at
that's
one
when you
time.
just kind of close, I think, sometimes. Sometimes as a company, it's good to stop the machine out of respect. Oh,
Yeah, I like that. Can I write that down?
yeah.
Stop the
Yes.
machine out of respect.
Sometimes, and
Oh.
it, could be protection for yourself down the road. You know what I mean? It's better to just handle it. But I do think five employees, that's
And then
California's getting
another
tough, man. Ward, how many new
Mm.
laws? I mean, what's going to happen at the end of this year? I wonder. The fast workers, the fast food workers act, the
We'll see
fast
where that
act.
goes. Yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
where that goes.
Well,
We're gonna have to wait for more than a year, though. It's gonna be 2024 at the election.
mm.
Oh, that's right, huh? That's right. Wow. Wow. All of these sick leaves and family leaves and all of these things that we've talked about, is
Mm.
this for non-government versus like if you're a firefighter or if you are,
Good question. I didn't include that concept here because I think most government entities know that it does apply to them.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Just wanted
Yeah.
to check in
I
on
was
that,
just
but
trying to hit the private employers, but yeah, in most of these statutes, and I have to go look through and make. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure actually for all the ones I've listed in my article that it does apply to
Mhm.
government entities
Okay.
as well. But I could be wrong on one, but I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, there's so many variables with law, right? There's so much. So everyone, bestemploymentattorneysandiego.com is the website. Ward is here every fourth Wednesday. So keep up with us at bigblendradio.com, but see his article on blendradioandtv.com. Thanks so much, Ward. It's always fun.
Thanks, Ward.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Great interview. I enjoyed it.
Cool.